In a very popular video, I spoke about the reasons why smart cruisers are staying on board the ship on port days more than ever these days. It sparked a lot of arguments and discussion, which got me wondering if maybe I was wrong about not getting off the ship. Welcome aboard, I'm Gary Bembridge, and after wondering if staying on board a ship in port could lead to the biggest cruising regret you and I could have, here's what I discovered. Many cruisers I meet tell me a main reason they don't get off in a port is they've been before or are due to come back on another cruise and they'll explore it then. However, what they don't consider is it could be their last chance to ever explore that port. As we've seen in recent years, in an increasingly volatile world, amazing ports can quickly become off limits due to unrest and wars. For example, wars meant the incredible port of St. Petersburg and others around Israel and the Middle East, Red Sea and Suez Canal area disappeared off cruise itineraries, while Haiti in the Caribbean has disappeared due to gang warfare, making it impossible to call on. Natural disasters can also make ports suddenly unvisitable too. In a recent Alaska season, a landslide in Skagway stopped some ships calling there. Recently, earthquakes stopped ships calling into Santorini, for example, too. Also increasingly, with signs it may grow, is more countries, islands and port cities are placing bans and restrictions on cruise ship visits. These range from the much publicized Venice changes, total bans by various ports in Canada, limits on how many and which types of ships can go to Santorini, Mykonos and other Greek islands, the same in Palma, Ibiza, and mayors in cities like Nice and Barcelona are pushing for more bans. So that port you don't get off in may not be available to be visited again. Also, even if you've been to a port before, things are always changing. There may be new museums, attractions, sites, restaurants, and seasonal activities like festivals, markets, or events unique to that core that you will miss out on, even if you've been to the port before. And of course, there may be a weather issue stopping a call, like happened to friends as I made this, where due to Hurricane Erin, they missed 4 Caribbean ports on their planned Island Princess cruise out of New York. Life events may also get in the way, like your ability to travel at all, unplanned family changes, and so on. So before staying on board, consider you may never return to that particular port again in your lifetime, and ask if you will regret it. Another reason many like staying on board is the ship is quiet and they have the venues to themselves. However great that is, it can be argued that the experiences on board can never match the potential of those in a cruise port. Things like I did standing in front of the Colosseum in Rome, walking around the Leaning Tower of Pisa, soaring through a rainforest on an aerial tram in Costa Rica, snorkeling among fish, sharks and stingrays in Bora Bora, or cruising through the blue seas in the Caribbean on a catamaran to go snorkeling, tasting wine in a vineyard where it was made, and so on. Those are the things I personally remember and talk about after those trips, not that I was able to get a lounger by the pool or got to have a go on the flow rider without a line on the days that I stayed on board. Also, ports have local shops and markets with authentic crafts, souvenirs and unique products that the ship shops simply do not offer. For example, in the Caribbean, I always hunt for local vanilla essence in the markets, which beats anything I can buy anywhere else. While cruise ships offer much, and some are in floating resorts, ports make the unique, irreplaceable experiences that we will all remember and talk about. And you may regret missing out if you don't experience those when you hear about those from people who did go out and actually experience them. Another argument for staying on board is saving money on excursions and not buying food, drinks and paying for activities in the port. However, consider that many travel memories are actually priceless. Years later, you're not going to remember and treasure that you saved $50 on a spa treatment, got a lower priced specialty restaurant meal, or got more value from your drinks package by staying on board. But you will remember, despite the cost, as I do, flying onto, say, glaciers near Juneau to go dog sledding, riding on the historic White Pass and Yukon Railway in Skagway, eating genuine Italian pizza in the heart of Florence, or cycling through pineapple groves and up a massive hill on e-bikes in Morea, or even soaring up a cable car in Olden to look down the fjords. Those are the things that you will remember. But there is another more pressing issue when it comes to spending that could actually help keep ports welcoming us. If we get off in a port and spend, we're helping local businesses and communities, many where cruise tourism is essential to the livelihood of craftsmen, shops, stall owners, tour guides, drivers, restaurants, bars, and even beach vendors. Getting off the ship and spending in ports may also help keep cruising's ability to keep calling on them. Why do I say that? Well, I mentioned earlier about how an increasing number of ports want to restrict cruise ships. This is often driven by local politicians, but we've seen those bans cut back or even scrapped by pressure from those that rely on our spending in ports. For example, in Juneau, Alaska, it was lobbying and pressure by those local businesses and people relying on our spend that threw out the proposed severe restrictions on the size and number of ships calling there. The same pressure that forced the new mayor of Nice to actually scrap plans to restrict cruise ships significantly. So by getting off in a port and supporting local businesses and local people, we can hopefully help ensure that they keep making the case that cruise ships should still keep coming when politicians try to restrict and ban us going. Another reason many have for staying on board is that many ports are so busy these days and they can avoid battling crowds when they're out in the port. However, the ports, no matter how busy they are, can still create the most incredible experiences, and having to deal with crowds is a small price to pay for seeing those sights and having those experiences. For example, on a recent Japanese cruise, I decided, despite the reputation of big crowds, to get off the ship and go on an excursion to Kyoto to see the Golden Pavilion. There were crowds, absolutely, but I don't remember that. I just remember the beauty and the importance of visiting that place. I also remember the unique experience of lying, enjoying the beach and having a Mexican lunch in Cabo San Lucas, despite the crowds and it being busy. The memory of these outweighs anything I've ever done on a quiet ship day in port. And of course, a well-chosen excursion can even help dodge the crowds often too. Another reason cruisers tell me they prefer to stay on board rather than getting off in port, especially when on a big mega ship resort style ship, is they see the ship itself as the destination. There's so much to do on those ships, they argue. Of course, I agree, many cruise ships like that are absolutely amazing, but it's still all there on a sea day and in the evenings. But ports are often more fleeting experiences. We visit them for a couple of hours and then we leave. Once the ship sails, the opportunity to experience them is gone, unlike what's on the ship. Getting off in a port is probably better for our body and minds too. Going ashore will have more experiences. It will introduce us to new cultures, foods. We'll meet some locals. And of course, because it often involves walking, swimming, snorkeling or cycling, it's definitely healthier as well, even if just helping to walk off some of those added indulgence calories. All that is likely to beat a day on board. I think it is worth considering, at least if trading that possible once in a lifetime experience on a shore day for something that you can do on a cruise in the evening or on a sea day is actually a good trade-off at all. The ship itself is a wonderful destination, but the ports and experience in the ports are what makes each cruise truly unique. When you get back and talk about your trip, you're not going to think about or talk to your friends about that great nap or the quiet time you had around the pool. You are going to talk about those incredible port experiences. However, there is, of course, a case to be made for staying on board, which I'll make over in this video. See you over there.